Welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and other exciting genres. Where if the earth swallowed me whole right now instead of reviewing this series, I would say thank you. Well, in case you haven't noticed, I did not die from rat poisoning, and I'm still very much alive and somehow trugging along to review the final part of the series. And I am thanking God that I don't have to do yet another series of this. Here we are with the series finale for Ironheart, and boy, can I not want to get this done as quick as possible. But here we go with my review of this series. We get a flashback of John and Parker together when they did what looks like to be their first robbery they've ever done as a group. And Parker does his best to enter into this facility, but ends up almost getting shot at with John protecting him. And it flashes forward to where we're at in the series now.
You are the dumbest smart person I have ever met in my life.
Well, what can I say? Parker knows what's going on. Riri is hiding it as stupidly as possible. And it's clear that there's going to be a clash after this brief meeting that they have, where Parker just indicates they'll just plan for their next heist. In the meantime, Riri heads back to her home and tries to figure out the composition of Parker's Red Hood cape, trying to figure out the power source of it, but there's just no answers that come up. So our next option is to go to see Joe, aka Zeke Stain, to see if he might have some answers to her situation, and also to fess up about losing his tech. However, upon checking on him, he finds out that he got arrested.
Traced back to Ezekiel Stain of Evanston, Illinois.
You are the dumbest smart person I have ever met in my life.
And to add more insult to injury to Riri's situation, the Hood catches wind of this situation, and an idea begins to form in his brain.
Hey!
So Riri pays a visit to Zeke, and no surprise there, he's not too thrilled that he's in a different place other than his home, also known as prison, and tells Riri pretty much to buzz off and don't bother him ever again. Back at Parker's lair, Riri gets asked about Zeke, which she denies, and also gets news from Parker that a new tech will also be added to the crew. Believing that imminent danger was definitely coming to her and her family, Riri spent some time building a few watches for both her mother and Xavier, and also stays in an Iron Man suit in bed to even keep watch over them. However, she thinks she's going into heroics when her mother is screaming, only to realize that it was just a false alarm, and it leads to a very heated argument between her and her mother about what exactly is going on. Although it doesn't lead to any resolutions directly, Riri does come up with a plan that might help her out when her mother mentions something about some of her friends who delve into magic, which leads to something that I didn't think I would ever see on this show under any circumstances, but here we are.
Please don't be mad. What?
Blackout magic!
Mad.
Oh my God!
So now the world of Doctor Strange has crept into this part of the Marvel MCU, and yep, we get magic in this series as well. So Riri uses these people to basically find out what's the source of this cloak, and after a little bit of investigation and some concoctions that they make up, they come to realize that this is a lot darker and more dangerous than they imagined, and basically tell Riri, get lost, do not bring this back, do not ever come near us ever again. Despite her mother's insistence that she try to get her some help, Riri refuses to listen to her and just simply takes off to try and find a scientific way rather, to overcome the Hood's powers. Meanwhile, on the other end, Zeke is rotting in prison and gets the unexpected visit from none other than Parker himself, who offers him a chance to get his name back and then some, indicating that he knows that he was framed for what happened and he was willing to help him out in any way possible. Zeke refuses, but Parker's convinced he can turn him around and just says, just think about it. So we get a montage of Riri trying to figure out any possible scientific way of destroying Parker's hood, and tries everything from biodegradable chemicals to electricity to bombing, and maybe taking a break with some mushu, but pork, which doesn't make her feel any good better. And finally, it seems like perhaps she has a solution.
I can't figure this out.
This sudden realization sends Riri spiraling out of control as she flies off, trying to clear her head, but unfortunately another panic attack triggers, and Natalie ends up landing the iron suit and getting Xavier to try and help her to calm down. However, this proves to be an epic failure, as not only Natalie comes to go fetch him and kidnaps him rather than convince him to come over, but when Xavier does arrive and tries to comfort Riri, he realizes that his dead sister is being used as a tool for the suit, and this angers him so much that he demands Riri to delete it. Out of sheer panic, Riri thinks about the idea, which offends Natalie, who also runs off and leaves them both alone with their situation. Meanwhile, Zeke sits alone in his prison cell thinking about pretty much nothing at this point, since his life as he knows it is all but done. However, chance would have it that now apparently he's been busted out by Parker's crew, and now that opportunity that he thought was not there is now present, and he takes it up. So the episode ends with Zeke returning back with the rest of the crew to Parker's hideout, where they set him up to put cybernetic implants into him that would allow him to have powers that would even the playing field with him and Riri when they meet up again. This also ends with the Hood sending all his minions to basically go after Riri for what happened to John. He reveals that John was killed by her, and he wants her head. Now we enter into episode 5, where Natalie is not too happy with Riri and runs off somewhere just to reflect on some of the memories of the real Natalie and try to understand where Riri's coming from. Well, that gets interrupted when the Hood's henchmen show up and basically kidnap her and take away the suit. Meanwhile, our MIT genius is still licking her wounds from her fallout with Stephanie and Xavier, and instead seeks out Zelma Stanton, aka the Black Girl Magic Girl, who explains to her the source of Parker's powers is possibly that of Dormammu, who is featured in Doctor Strange. How this helps Riri doesn't give her any true answers just yet, but at least it's a starting point as she realizes now that it may not be possible to fight Parker with just her suit.
You are the dumbest smart person I have ever met in my life.
Apparently, White Castle becomes the battleground for Riri's little battle with all of the henchmen of Parker, as she comes up with one intelligent way after another to dodge, weave, and hit them in the nose, and so to speak, only to find herself at a disadvantage once again when Clown shows up and nearly bombs her way after her. She manages to outsmart her in this fashion, and then eventually makes her way out to where Slug is waiting for her to run her down with the truck. This, of course, gives us this battle montage that really sums up what Marvel thinks of all its fans. Here we go.
Oh my God!
After Natalie saves Riri from near death, the two have another spat about what happened earlier, and this also leads to her basically disappearing and not being in clutch again when another problem occurs.
Hi.
Well, Zeke is here, all juiced up with his tech, and a battle ensues between the two of them, where it all ends up with Zeke ripping out every bit of Riri's suit, leaving her in shambles and defeated, warning her to just go away if you don't want the Hood to come looking for you and your family. Probably the most sensible thing that's come out of Riri since this entire show has began is that she realizes she and her mom need to run. And while that probably is a smart thing to do, her mother does acknowledge that she needs to stand up for herself and fight, which I will give credit. This is finally one part where at least someone, or at least two someones here, these characters, are finally showing some growth in the series. Riri acknowledges that the reason she built the suit in the first place was because she couldn't protect either her stepfather or Natalie when they were both taken from her years earlier. So her mother, along with AI Natalie, take her back to the shop, and this becomes a tender moment that I will admit could have been utilized in some fashion in the earlier episodes that helps us see Riri's connection to her stepfather, and what it meant to her when she built the suit in the first place. So we get another montage of her developing a way to finally go hand to hand with the Hood and his minions. While this is all happening, Zeke and company return back to their hideout where Parker is waiting for them and receives the news that Riri is finally dead. He presses Zeke for details. He wants to know everything, but suspects that Zeke is lying to him when Clown jumps in and gives further details indicating how it was done, though it in itself is a lie. Upon escorting Zeke out, Parker offers him a spot on his team, indicating that now that Riri's gone, you're more than welcome to join. However, Zeke dismisses the offer, only saying that this is only the deal, and he doesn't want any more part of it, though Parker indicates that you might change your mind. Riri did, and you will. And we jump over back to Riri herself at the garage, where she finally realizes that with all the power sources she's looking for to try and get the suit to match up to Parker's powers, she realizes she needs an infinite power that will allow her to even the playing field, and realizes that she's going to have to fight magic with magic. Then in a turn of events, going back to Parker again the next day, it appears that the crew is questioning Parker's loyalty to them when they find out that Stewart is dead, and question him whether he had anything to do with his death. While he doesn't say anything directly as to whether that is true or not, he snaps at him and basically decides that it's time to end his partnership with them and tells them all to leave. They are officially fired. Well, while that convenient plot armor manifests, we jump back to the garage once again, where Zelma is now brought in to consult with Riri about the infinite power source she needs, and isn't confident, but is going to try her best to help her out. Meanwhile, Xavier finally comes in, and we get this beautiful romantic moment where the two of them are just head over heels in love with each other, and then...
They say this, of all the souls I've encountered on my travels, hers was the most human.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Well, that's giving Marvel writers a little bit too much credit there. But anyways, we move on to the team working together to see if they can come up with a plan to get this suit up and running, and Xavier up to speed as to what occurred before all this. So one musical montage later, and a prep for the summoning of Satan, the powers that they're going to need to power up the suit, we jump over to another situation that occurs. While Zeke is having a little spat with his former neighbor, he finds out that something is not right when his powers don't seem to cooperate with him when he expects them to. And lo and behold, look who shows up just as that happens.
Hi.
To Zeke's surprise, he apparently cannot seem to resist Parker's demands to follow with him whatever he tells him to do, which he reveals to him that he had Slug reprogram his implants so that any command he makes, Zeke has to answer to. Sure isn't a big problem for him right now, isn't it? Well, that so-called not big problem turns out to be Parker taking Zeke out to the very same place he had gone to rob over years ago with John. We get a action montage of Parker taking out all the security guards once again, and wait a minute, didn't we see this guard in previous... Never mind, maybe that's just me and my imagination. What do I know? But anyways, Parker does all this to reveal at the end of this that the owner of this building is that of his own father. The man that kicked him out of this property and cheated him out of any fortune he would have, which reveals to us the motivations for the Hood. This confrontation finally ends with Parker getting finally what he deems the keys to the kingdom and kicks his father out of the house that once he lived in, and now relishes in the life of luxury that he's always dreamed of. What a great way to end this story here. With that in mind, the episode finally ends with the the powering up of Riri Sue with the mystic arts that they're going to infuse the Iron Man suit with. And clearly, this is going to have no repercussions whatsoever. This is going to work out fantastically well.
Oh no! What happened? Oh no! How terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
More to come later on, as we now enter to what appears to be the light at the end of this tunnel, which is known as Episode 6, where we are back with Parker in the past, where he had done his robbery of his father's home and trying to escape security to evade arrest. Apparently, he runs into a mysterious figure in the shadows, totally not suspicious in any way possible, who offers him a way out through a door that just magically appears. Who'd have thunk it? Into the very pizzeria where he had begun his operations, as we see in the present day. The gentleman offers his, Parker an opportunity for him, a deal of sorts, where he asks him straight up, what does Parker desire the most? And finally, after a little bit of cajoling, Parker reveals that he wants to be disgusting, filthy rich. And this man offers him that opportunity. This is where we finally see how Parker gets his hood and is now on his journey to becoming the villain of this story. Back in the present, Parker is enjoying his laugh of luxury in his new home and is treating also Zeke to the meal as well, who isn't too happy with his being held hostage against his own will to basically work as a slave towards Parker. A few jabs from Zeke later, Parker's convinced that he needs to do more than what he's already done to be accepted into the society that he is entered into at this point. Meanwhile, we jump back to Riri at the garage where she desperately tries to bring back Natalie. However, it just becomes fruitless, as no matter what she does, there's no way of bringing her back, even with all the tools she has at her disposal. She decides that the only thing left to do is that if magic took her away, then magic is what's going to bring her back. The team tries to tell her to be careful about this, but she's determined to go ahead and do this, and it's now time for her to confront the only person that may bring her back, which is that of Parker. Now, I'm going to be very honest, as we get further into this episode, at least with a lot of Parker's story, there doesn't seem to be any clear indication what they're trying to accomplish with him. And I mean that from a writing standpoint. I am not talking about the story itself. Here you have dialogue between Parker talking with this mysterious entity again. We'll get to him in a bit. But again, what are Parker's motivations is what I'm asking here. You hear him asking he wants more, but how is more going to accomplish anything at all? That's one of the things I have an issue with this series, is that there's no clear motivations as to what it is Parker wants to accomplish. It only says he wants to get rich, but why does he want to get rich in that way? That is not even cleared up. But what I do know is that, at least with this scene, it is used as a starting point, as a distraction more so, to Riri entering and finally confronting Parker and blindsiding him to take the hood from him. However, upon entering into the pizzeria, she forgets that there's one other person needs to be dealt with, and that's Ezekiel, who stands in her way of getting to Parker, so they have a little bit of a back and forth tossing through. When finally Riri convinces him that she could help him get out of his programming, and the only thing that can be done about that is a good swift kick to the nuts. While this unconventional resolution is made, it doesn't change anything between her and Zeke, as clearly he's not happy with her for what happened, and says that this is not the end. End of story for Zeke. The end. Well, now that one male chauvinistic pig has been dealt with, and never mind the white privilege that underlying that came with that, we now get on to one other chauvinistic pig that needs to be shown by Riri and her smart wits, as in this battle sequence where they go toe to toe, and of course she outwits him with a hologram to finally take the hood and strip it off of Parker once and for all, showing him that she absolutely is the true one and true hero of this story. Until, you know, I'm always good for a good plot twist or a surprise ending that maybe no one saw coming, but this was not what I had in mind. So we get the reveal of the villain that's behind all these other villains, the darkness that is not Dormammu, but that of Mephisto. We get a waste of a use of a character that is probably one of the most biggest villains of Marvel Comics, used for this petty, indulgent show. And not only that, we get to really, really see the true character, the true fortitude that Riri has when she's faced with Mephisto doing the very same deal that he made with Parker. Basically, what do you want? I shall grant it to you. What is it the most that you desire? You guessed it. She wants her best friend back. And apparently not just the AI that she gets back. And never mind that I should also mention in this that she doesn't ask for her stepfather, but her best friend. So, in a flash forward of sorts, we're not sure where this takes place, Natalie returns. And not just AI Natalie that we're talking about, the true Natalie in the flesh. But at what cost? And I don't just say that question, at what cost, for the character Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. I say at what cost of this god-awful show. We got from episode 1 all the way to episode 6 with nothing but self-indulgent attitudes that Riri has displayed throughout this entire show. At no point has she shown heroics. At no point has she shown any desire to help others, but only to help herself. And this is how we end the show and the series overall for Ironheart. I gotta say, I've never felt the need to really take a jab at a show in any way possible. This is definitely one of those occasions here. This is absolutely the pitiful epitome of shows I've ever watched. You know, and I'm not a fan of Ironheart. I will be honest with that. Be from the comics. I've only cared about Iron Man, Captain America, and all those other characters from Marvel. But what did you do, Marvel, to convince me that this character is somebody I want to get behind? What did you do here that makes this character someone you want to root for? I have no sympathy for this character in any way. She has done nothing to earn a single thing that gave us what we got at the climax of this show right here. This is a really sad take to have to even say here about the show in general, because as of right now, we have gone through Daredevil Born Again, which was a god-awful show. We have gone through Captain America Brave New World, which I don't care what anybody says, that was a god-awful movie in every way possible. So we have been getting slop after slop after slop, and this is the culmination of that slop from an era that started all this to begin with. It's really sad that I have to say that, but this is my honest take on this is that this is definitely a show that deserves a rating of god-awful. I have never seen a show that makes me feel like I just wasted a good portion of my life over this. Where do we go from here with Marvel? I don't know. I do not have any faith in them at this point. Later on, we are now heading very close to the Fantastic Four, which is not too long after Superman, which has its own issues right now. So it's definitely not looking good for Marvel with this show and what they tried to hide from us until now. Mind you, this show was on the shelf since 2012. It was already done since that time. And now we get the show presented in this fashion. And this is why I am just done with Marvel in its own way. I will still be reviewing their stuff, but in terms of being a fan, this really has taken that away from me personally. You know, maybe someone in the comments can give me a reason to look at this differently. I hope there is somebody out there that can, because as of right now, this is not doing it for me, not in any way. So with that in mind, this is my take on Ironheart, a god-awful show that should never have been made, should have been canned, just like Batgirl, which, to some credit, Batgirl would probably be a better show than this. But this is what we got. So, with that in mind, like, share, and subscribe. And you know the outro I say, you best better believe I'll be back.